Now I've decided to work on this end of the air duct. I was going to make a repair section between here and the end, but having looked at the condition of the panel, it's damaged around this area here. When I got it, tried to remove the end of the section here, so I've actually got to repair that. So what I've done, just made up a repair section for the very end. Still got a little bit to do in terms of fitting it, but it's pretty close. Then what I'll do is just made up a bit of a template for the section that goes in here. So I'll just cut that out and fold that up. When I've got that pretty close, then I'll make up a section between here and the edge of the steering cover here, steering column cover. Now that section is actually, get that out of the way, that section's got to be formed around this section here. So it's not just a straight flange. Now to do that, I've made up a form here. I'll clamp a piece of metal between these two blocks and I'll form that shape there with the corresponding shape in the block here. So I'll do that just with a hammer, and that'll have to be stretched to get that shape, so that shouldn't be too difficult. So just to recap, I'll make that section and this section, and then look at welding the patch panels in place, and that will give me a complete duct up to about that point, and then I'll proceed to make the balance. Now this repair piece has been tacked in place. I've still got to finish the weld, but I've just positioned it, and what I've also done is make the repair section for here. Now this is a piece that goes over the steering column cover, so I made this wooden form to be able to stretch that to the right shape. Now you can see that it's stretched because this piece of metal, what I did initially was to fold it straight across, and then I've gradually tapped that down. You can see where it's actually stretched out. So what I've got to do is that when I've made sure it fits properly, I'll just take that out. Now it's very close to fitting now, so when I've got the fit right, I've got to fit into there well onto that piece, I'll actually then trim off. You can see it that way. You can see how it's stretched out. I'll trim that off so it's straight across there. So I probably don't have to, but I will anyway, just to make it neat. Now, what I was doing with the repair from here all the way to the end, I think I mentioned I was going to do a flange along here on this repair piece. So I'm not just going to do a butt weld, I'm going to do a flange weld as a practice exercise. And seeing it's done in here, you can't see it anyway. So that's what when I've finished shaping that, so it's almost right now, I'll put a flange on this. I'll finish welding this section in here, and then I'll weld this in, and then that'll enable me to proceed to make the repair section for the rest there. Now, I got some feedback on the E Type forum, the last video I posted, about putting a shaped piece into here to assist with the airflow. Now, I did a bit of research on the forum. Let's get this up here. I did a bit of research on the forum to see what I could find, and I did find a photograph of a piece that's on offer. I don't know where it was from, but was made so it could, let's put that up into there, so it could actually push into there, into this hole where the heater goes, and provide a better finish for the airflow. So what it does, it provides a curved piece of metal to pick up the airflow and direct it up towards the vents. So what I'll do is I'll repair this section first, and then look at how I might actually fit a piece down inside here. I'll probably make it part of this panel itself and weld it in place, but I've seen a photo of what this piece is that people can actually slide in there and somehow screw it in place, but I'll make one that is actually part of the duct itself. So that's something else that's come up, so it's good to get the feedback, and I thank Simon for that on the E Type forum. So anyway, I'll just continue with the repair on this and then proceed a bit further. Now, I managed to find a photograph of the adapter that people can buy to basically shove in the hole. So I've started to make up something similar. Mine's a little bit different, and the reason for that is that I've got access to the hole inside of the panel, so I can make it a little bit different. So what I've done is that it's made up of two parts. I've got this plate that goes straight back to the rear wall, but probably can't see that. Maybe you can. You can see that I've also got that the plate extends up inside this, and it angles down. You can see the front part of it there, where that comes down. So it angles down to cover up basically the hole underneath this. So it just provides a, well, I think anyway, a smoother airflow across into the tunnel. Now, the curved deflector here, I've just been working on that. That goes round. It goes, at this stage, it goes a bit further than the plate. I may modify that, but it's flush against the rear wall. The top cover there, I've still got a bit of tweaking to do with that, but that will provide a pretty good seal between the top cover here and the deflector. So all in all, it should certainly work better than the original design. I mean, all the original design does is create a lot of turbulence in here, and hopefully there's enough pressure to force it up the tube. This way there won't be the turbulence, it'll just be directed straight round the corner. So what I've got to do now, I've got the pieces, two pieces. I'll just tweak it a little bit to make sure it fits a little neater than it is now, and then I'll weld these two pieces together. Now whether I weld it or braze it, I'll think about that. And then what I'll be doing is, as I rebuild this this part here, I'll actually weld. It's held in with a tech screw at the moment. I'll weld it along here. I'll plug weld it there, so this becomes part of the panel. And not sure yet, I may weld that to the side too. It's probably a good idea to do that. So all in all, it's worked out a little bit better than I thought. Trial and error. I've made up a few, or two of these pieces to get the fit right. It's not just a straight it is shaped, and it's shaped so when it comes into here, it actually goes back up almost flush with the top panel here, so there's no gap on the top there. So I've tried to get as much of this corner area covered so it doesn't interfere with the flow of air. So at this stage it's pretty close. A little more tweaking and then I'll finish it off. Now this is my airflow piece. Just got it sitting there at the moment. The design's a little bit different to the one I've seen on the net. This part is similar, but I've also got an angle section down here, so when the air comes around, it basically should flow straight out this way. I'll actually weld this to the air duct itself, but at the moment I've just been fitting it. So I'll just put the air duct over the top of it. Alright, now this will just got to come up a little bit. I'll weld, let's see the alright, I've got it back on. Now this section will actually weld onto here. I'll do that before I finish this. With that welded in place, this is quite solid. It's actually jammed up against the back, so it doesn't move at all. I may put a spot weld on there just to hold that. Shouldn't really need it, it's quite tight as it is. The other section here, this goes over the top and provides a fairly neat fit against the scoop there, so it should work quite well. Certainly work much better than the original design. So it's taken quite a while to fit that. A lot of adjustment, particularly trying to get it to fit up here. I've actually had to braze a little extra piece of metal in there, so that's done. Anyway, I've finished that. Now I'll continue on with the rest of the repairs along the duct here. Now these are all my repair sections to the airflow tunnel. That section I've already welded in, but these sections along the front I indicated that I was going to do a flange weld rather than a butt weld. So what I've done is put I think it's about 11mm flange along the top. That will fit under. And what I'll do is that I'll plug weld into the flange, and then I'll put a weld along the seam here and fill that weld. So I wanted to practice this for when I do the rear wings. Now, making the flanges is not that difficult if you've got a flanging tool here. This is just a compressed air one, works very well. Obviously you can only flange that much at a time, but if you carefully go across it, overlapping the areas you're doing, it doesn't take all that long to flange along the edge there. On the other side there's a punch, which certainly makes it a lot easier than drilling, but they're 6mm holes, so they're a little bit smaller than I would normally use, but I'm not too worried because I'm not only plug welding these, I'm actually in fact seam welding it along the edge there. So these are the individual repair sections ready to be welded in. This one I explained before, that's the airflow section completed. And this section here is almost complete. I've got to make another section in here, but I'll do that when I've made up the front panel. So anyway, it's ready to weld together. When I do, what I'll be doing is sealing all this with red undercoat, and I'll internally here, once the welding's done, I'll actually put an epoxy enamel inside the air vent, so there'll be no chance of it rusting again, hopefully, certainly not in my lifetime. So that's now ready to weld up. It'll take quite a while just to weld all of these on and to do that seam weld right across. As I say, then I'll paint it up, ready to weld it back into the front bulkhead. Finished welding in the repair sections. The flange weld really wasn't a success, certainly in terms of heat distortion, which is what I was hoping to avoid. The initial plug welding worked okay, there's really no distortion to speak of with that, but when I started to add weld in to fill the seam, that's when the distortion occurred. So I kept going, but I didn't complete it because it wasn't working out. I was just getting more distortion the more welds I put in. It's quite solid. Turn it over. The flange itself provides enormous strength, so that was okay. But as a trial for the rear wing, it really wasn't successful. But as a repair for the air duct, it's quite okay. So what I'm now going to do is to put some undercoat on. I won't undercoat the outside of this, I'll undercoat the inside, and I'll undercoat all inside the front here, including up under there. I'll turn the car over, make sure I get as much in as I can, and then I will actually weld this panel in situ, or will I? No, I won't weld it in. I'll screw it in with Tech screws, and then I'll finish making the repairs to the front panel. The reason I won't weld it in at this stage, I want to make sure it's exactly in the right position when I put the front panel on. So in that respect I won't do a weld yet, just to make sure that the locations I've got there are true. Now, with a little bit of trial fitting I've done with the pieces of the front panel I have, it appears as though it will fit quite neatly, but I won't take the risk of welding that in and then finding out I've made a slight error. So anyway, so that really repair is done. I haven't welded the top section on yet. I want to be able to get in and paint this cleanly, so I'll wait until that's done before I put that on, or maybe I'll put it on once I've welded this in place. I'll just have to look at the access for welding to make a decision on that. So all in all, that's worked out quite well. I'm pleased. It's a nice solid air duct with an improved airflow at the front. Now I've put some heavy coats of red primer inside the bulkhead, including, just turn the cover over a bit, including under the top panel here. So I've managed to get it in as much as I can, all in through the A-pillars and so on. And I've also, as I mentioned, put some epoxy enamel on the inside of the vent. Now that also includes the panel that will be welded over the top of that. So that's all done. I'll just screw this in place now and then start on fabricating this end I've got to fabricate. I've already done that end, even though I haven't welded it on, but I need to fabricate this end, so I'll start working on that.